Welcome to Digital Dominators, the podcast that helps small business owners grow their confidence, sharpen their digital skills, and actually enjoy showing up online. I'm Sooz Young, your host, tech coach, and digital cheerleader, and every week I chat with brilliant experts to bring you practical tips, smart strategies, and the tools and tech to make business easier. From social media marketing to websites, content to confidence, AI to automation, we're breaking it down into simple steps you can actually use. If you're ready to make things simpler and more successful in your digital world, you're in the right place. Let's get stuck in. Welcome to Digital Dominators, the podcast where we break down the skills, stories, and systems to help you thrive in the digital age. Today's episode is all about ideas, specifically how to take that spark of a tech idea and actually turn it into something real. If you've ever dreamed of building an app or launching a tech product, but felt blocked by a lack of technical know-how, this episode is for you. And I've got just the person to show us. Ceri Shaw is the founder of Thistle Lab, where they help non-technical founders bring their tech startup ideas to life. With a background in both product strategy and inclusive innovation, Ceri provides early-stage entrepreneurs through the messy, exciting process of turning bold visions into working, scalable products. Whether you're scribbling an app idea on the back of a napkin or already knee-deep in development, Ceri's work is all about making tech accessible, translating complex systems into simple steps and removing barriers so that more founders can build things that actually matter. In this episode, we're talking about what it really takes to build an app from scratch, how to work with developers, even if you're not one, and why inclusivity, strategy, and clarity are essential ingredients for every successful tech build. So let's get into it. Hi, Ceri. Welcome to the Digital Dominators podcast. I'm so happy to have you on today. So after I've done and read out that bio about you, what I always like to do is to ask the people, tell us a little bit about how you got into your journey of being a CTO, that kind of fractional role. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means, but what is Thistle Labs? How did you get to helping people with their tech solutions?
Sooz, it's really great to be on here today. So how did I get into what I do? I started out as a developer straight from university, and I kind of worked my way up through, being a team lead, a manager, head of department, and a CTO. And then unfortunately, the company I was working for went into liquidation. I didn't really want to know what I wanted to do next. And then a lot of my friends and colleagues and similar came to me and were like, oh, can you help us out with something? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I kind of realized there was a real need for what I'm doing out there. So I started Digital Labs. It's been going about 18 months now, and I'm absolutely loving it. Really, really excited to be working with startup founders on their ideas. I get to hear so much about what people are doing and really just help them make a difference.
That's great. So what does that look like? So let's break that down a little bit into more details for people, because first of all, let's start off. What is a CTO, right? So I know the answer to this, but most people don't know what that means and the importance of it. So let's just address that to start off with, Ceri.
So CTO, Chief Technology Officer. Basically, it means the person in your company who is responsible for the technology, for the technology that you're building, typically. Sometimes you have a chief information officer, and that might be more responsible for the day-to-day computer systems that you're using, whereas a technology officer is usually responsible for the software products or even hardware products that you're building.
And the team that use those, I assume, as well, depending on the size of the company.
Yes, yeah, often they're managing the development team, whether that's in-house or outsourced. They're basically making sure that they're building the right thing.
And using the right tools to be able to help support it, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of this expression going around, fractional, right? So what does this fractional CTO or fractional CMO or like all of these fractional phrases, what does that actually mean, and how do you use that as a title for yourself?
Yeah, so basically fractional just means part-time. The reality is, as an early stage startup, you probably can't afford, or there's no need even to have a full-time technology officer, financial officer, marketing person. Often you only need like a small amount of time. So that's what Fractional's all about. It's about giving you access to the skills of somebody like myself, but on a day a week, a day a month sort of time frame, so that it costs you a lot less basically, but you still get all that expertise and support and help.
That's what I love about that as well. And I think you've explained that really clearly, because I think what people, and you'll explain this to me as well because of the people that you speak to, but when you're thinking about creating a company that's got a technical part to it, whether that be an app or a product that is online that people can access, the technology scares them and they tend to look to outsource that in some way. And whether that is in another country with maybe language barriers, and they may not get the experience that they've expected through that. And so they put further barriers in place for them. But actually, this fractional CTO role allows you to have somebody there that can be almost onboarded into your company in a way, but not there full time, right? So it's a really great solution for a lot of small business owners, but they don't know about it. Right? Is that what your experience about it is?
Absolutely, yeah. So basically, I'm on your side. I'm part of your company, and I help with all that outsourcing. I help you find the right people. I help you decide if you even need it at all. There might be. We'll talk a bit about this later, but you might not even need to go to an outsourcing company. We might be able to find you an alternative solution. Yeah, I help you with your data and things like that as well. And I just do that translation between your tech people and you to make sure that we're getting really good alignment. So where the tech team's building exactly what you want, and that you really understand what's happening in the team. And obviously there's always run into blockers or things that go wrong, and I can help sort of smooth that process, explain what's going on, and help you make the best decisions. It's really about like peace of mind. You get peace of mind that you're spending a lot of money here, because in the end, developing software, it tends to be on the pricey side. So you get peace of mind that you're developing the right thing for you.
Yeah. And you'll have experienced this yourself. Not only as somebody that's worked within a company that's had to have internal infrastructure changes and setup, but also supporting those companies that are going through that process, is that when it comes to tech solutions, whether you're an established business or a startup, is that it takes a long time to start off with. There's a lot of time investment, money investment, and people investment. It's not just the one technical, it's all of these parts together. And you have to be that translation piece between to make sure they're all working together. And if it's not right, you'll need to change it.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And having somebody on board right at the beginning helps to stop that, right? Am I right? Am I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's getting it in the sometimes it's helping you express it in more technical terms so that you get the right thing. Sometimes it's spotting problems early on and being like, right, no, this isn't going to work. Let's do something different. And, you find that out earlier than if you're just doing that. You get to the end of the product being delivered or the transformation and you're like, here's the end thing. You're like, oh, that doesn't quite work for me.
That's not what I asked for.
Yeah.
But that is what you asked for. It's just not being translated properly into that, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So let's go into this kind of people that you're working with now with Thistle Labs, because you've got such a vast experience of working with people from developers, right? So right from the stage of helping them understand what it is to be a developer, to work with people. But now you're working with startups mostly, is that right? You're working with startups?
Startups and scale-ups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up to teams of or engineering teams, development teams of around about 100 folks.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about what that looks like on a day-to-day basis with you. Explain that and what those kind of role looks like for you.
So for very early stage folks, it might just involve like mentoring, and that's really like spending an hour with them every few weeks to months, just helping them refine their idea. Helping them figure out what to build. Often people's initial idea is quite big, so you've got lots of different steps to it, and we usually aim to try and narrow that down together. And then it's maybe then helping them if they're going for funding or for like investment, helping them to sort of get a technical plan down there that aligns with their business vision, helping them cost it all out, look at the different options. And quite often it's actually about sharing with them ways that they can actually maybe do some of this initial testing themselves, so they can progress the idea a little bit further before they need help or funding or, giving up equity to somebody else.
Mm.
So maybe we can do help them guide them towards some small experiments that they can do using much more straightforward technology that they can do themselves, so that they're really, really confident when they come to spend the money that their idea is actually going to work.
Yeah.
And then, so that's like kind of the early stage folks. And then as people actually start to build out their app, then often they're using either freelancers or they are using like a development agency that's based in the UK or overseas. And typically I sit there like between the two, sort of answering the technical questions that are coming from dev teams, like which cloud provider should we use, and which programming languages, how exactly do you want this set up? So I'm more providing input and guidance to the tech team, but also doing a lot of talking with the founders, really trying to understand their vision to make sure that what we're actually building is going to translate over. And then I'm usually on like weekly catch-ups with the dev team to keep everything on track, share the progress. In the meantime, I'll be helping non-technical founders, with their data needs. So it's really important to capture sort of your customer journey so you can see if it's working. So, okay, this is my onboarding journey and where are people dropping off? So we'll often be doing some like making sure that necessary data is being captured in the app, and then designing dashboards and similar so that people can check it, that kind of thing. And then often it's, looking at longer term, looking at costings for when people are going for the next stage of investment and things after that.
Yeah.
And then as companies grow and get bigger and they might need my services more regularly, I work with what I call scale ups, where they're trying to bring their team in house and grow it. And that's often on like training for the team, technical challenges, setting up best practices and processes, or helping them out on key projects. I'm doing quite a bit of work in AI at the moment. So helping companies understand what's possible in the AI space and how they might achieve that.
Yeah, that's such a varied role, Ceri, and I bet it keeps you on the top of your toes as
It
well.
really does. But I
Yeah,
really love that you can take the learnings from like one client and bring them to the next one, and then take their learnings, take it back to the first client. So constantly learning in this role. Nobody knows the whole tech landscape. So I find out new things every day, and then I'm happily sharing that back with
yeah,
the other people that I'm working with. Obviously not confidential information, but
yeah.
new tooling, new strategies, all that kind of thing.
And that's what I tend to find. This is why we've connected quite well, Ceri, because of what I find as being really important within the tech space is the knowledge sharing aspect, is where the evolution of technology is too fast that we can't keep up with it. And that the only way for us to keep on top of best practices across industries, doesn't matter what they are, is to share that information and to knowledge share.
Yeah. You just can't keep on top of everything, no matter, even if you're constantly learning. And that is a big part of my job, is staying on
Mhm.
top of what's coming up, but talking to other people, networking, knowing where other people's strengths are so that you can direct them. If
That's
I
right.
love to take a client and say, okay, I'm no longer the right person for you, have
Hmm.
somebody here or have this connection here, go talk to them.
Yeah,
And that's what I do. Sometimes I get to the point where it's like, okay, you need a full-time CTO, let me help you find somebody.
yeah.
Or, okay, this is not my skill set anymore, let me point you to the right person.
Hmm.
Because it's not worth it for me to try and muddle through and give you the wrong information. Let's direct you to an expert.
I think that's where we really need to take that skill on board. And this isn't a technical skill, this is just real essential skill of, and this is the one thing that we were taught, this is one of the many things we were taught at Apple, and this expression of, I don't know, let's find out. Right. And I think in technology, that is what we always have to say. We have to discover, and that comes through the learning and the exploring with the tools.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I've got a wealth of knowledge in the tech space, but it's much more like every company is unique, every problem is unique. So it's much more about trying to understand your problem so that we can find the right things together. So yeah, I don't necessarily have all the answers coming in. In fact, quite often I don't, but I know where to go look, which the founders might not, or I understand what I'm being told, or what the challenges are in this space enough to go find that
Yeah.
out for them.
What I find as well is that you are the person that's able to put the puzzle pieces together, right?
I really
So
like that. Yeah.
yeah, you're the it's like the Jigsaw Master, but that sounds like it's a horror film, but it's not. But it's like you're the person that's putting the jigsaw pieces together, because you can connect the tools, connect the people to get the solution for the end user, which we talk about in the tech world, the end users, the user experience, the user journey. But that's actually our customers, right? The customers that are experiencing that front end of the product, the front end and the back end. We look after the back end to help the front end, all of that stuff as well. I love this. I can talk about this all day long. Right, Ceri, let's talk about how startups can work, what that looks like from a startup that's got an app idea. So tell us a bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah, so often if you're coming with a startup idea, it's something that from your own experience, maybe it's a problem that you're struggling with yourself and you're like, I want to build a solution to this, or there must be a better way to do this. Or it's something that you've really noticed, like a gap in the market, and like, I can do that. And I think the first stage of this is often your idea is quite big. There's lots of different aspects to it, but we need to narrow it down to like, what's the key problem that we're trying to solve. So you're really looking for pain points from your customer. So first off, who is your customer? Get really, really clear on that. You'll probably need to do some user research, which basically just means talking to people. Like, go out and speak to people that you think might be your customers and ask them about the problems they're having. Do they talk about the same sorts of things that you're talking about? That can give you an idea of, is this really something that people care about? Are they tearing their hair out trying to find a solution? Or, because if they don't have that urgency, it might not be something that you want to tackle straight away, or maybe there's another aspect of the problem. So you're really looking for that key part that is, this is going to make people buy and use your app because they've got a really urgent problem that they need to solve, or a really important problem they need to solve, and there's nothing out there that's quite doing it. So that's the first thing to look for. Who are the users? What is their pain? What would be needed to solve that, just in terms of a journey? What are the different steps? And often, like, we get the founders to like draw out the different steps, and then we look at, and you can do this with a friend as well. It's quite a nice little exercise. Do I need every step there? Like, if you've got lots of branches, or if there's this type of customer, do this, or if this type of customer, do this, then that's a good way to say, okay, let's cut this down a bit. Do you need both of those customers straight off? Can we just deal with one type to start with, which is the person who's got the biggest problem? So really doing all these things to just try and get something that is as small as we can. Mm-hmm. And then the next step that we look at is, okay, now we've got the problem narrowed down. We don't necessarily want to go straight out to getting some quotes on developers and development work. What I usually do is look through the different steps that we've got on that journey and say, what's out there that already does this? Mm-hmm. So if you've got aspects that might be like, you might have education aspects, maybe there's an aspect of course and delivery of content there, and there's tools for that. Maybe there is, a lot of it is workflows that you could do through something like WordPress or Wix or Squarespace already, and you don't need to get a whole new app built, because they do a surprising amount through those. Maybe it's dashboards, in which case there's existing tools that we could maybe use and hook up to what you've already got. So there's basically a lot of stuff out there. There's tools like Zapier is the most common one, but there's quite a lot of tools where you can link things together. Yeah. So that you can sort of have, I like to call it like your duct tape and string solution. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that it's low cost. There might even be manual steps in there, but you're probably not going to go out and have like 100,000 users in your first week. You're probably going to have tens, maybe hundreds of users max. So you don't need something that's really scalable to start with, and you're just trying to do that initial test of, will people even use this? Mm-hmm. So we look for nice, cheap, easy to use tools that we can link together to give people basically solve that problem. It might be a little bit clunky. It will probably be like 70-80% solution, not your perfect one, but we try and give it as much polish as we can to give people the idea that what this can really do, and then help them put that out there into the world so they can test it. Mm-hmm. And then from that point on, it comes to, okay, how much interest is there in this? Where do we want to go? And then it comes to lots of questions about the scaling of it. Like, are you trying to self-fund this? Are you going for grant funding? Are you going for investment? And those all build into then what sort of development process and team that you're going to have to take this bigger.
Yeah, I think you've explained that really, really clearly, Ceri, because it is that starting off of where people are going to come. Well, I'll ask you this. Do people come to you going, this is what I want? because they've experienced something from another tool, and then they go, I want it to be like this, but don't realize actually that might not be what they want it to be. Yeah.
Sometimes we get a bit of that. It's like, I want this, but for my space. Sometimes, more commonly, it's actually, is this even possible? So I get the people like, I've got this idea and I want it to do X, Y, and Z, but I don't know if I can even, is it even something I can do? And how may I go about it? So it's often starting even from that and reassuring them, like, I think 99% of the problems are, yes, we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
We can get something there that will work for you. Very rarely I have to say, no, that's not possible, because tech's amazing nowadays. You can do a heck of a lot with it.
Yeah. I know, I find the same now. It's what we used to be able to say, no, it can't do that yet. It's not there yet. Now we're saying is, yes, it can, but it's not doing it as smoothly yet, is what I'm finding it being. And I've got a feeling in a year's time or 2 years' time, it's going to be, yes, that's fine. We can do that. Not a problem. It's just going to cost a little bit more to get that done, because I feel like the costs of everything, all tech and infrastructure, is going up as well. Have you seen that as well? Have you seen the costings of things increase?
Yeah, I think it varies. You get new tech coming in and it's expensive, and then that's sort of version like gets a bit cheaper, but then they release a new one that
Yeah.
does a bit more and that gets more expensive. And that's another one of the things to do. It's like, what's the appropriate, like, do I need the brand new shiny thing, or can we go with something that is maybe a little bit cheaper? Or not everybody needs the full on latest version. We can sometimes use like older solutions or more cut down solutions or cheaper versions of the tools.
Yeah.
So obviously startups, they don't want to, key things is they don't have a lot of money. Many of them are being bootstrapped, which basically just means the founders funding it themselves. So it's all about, how can we do this for as cheap as possible, but still get that value across to the customer.
What do you find being the biggest mistakes that startups make when it comes to implementing their kind of tech tools or their tech strategy?
Jumping straight into development. I think that's the key thing. It can often cost them a lot of money, so they maybe put a lot of their savings in to getting somebody to build out what they think their idea is. And then it either is not what they think, or they don't get what they think they're going to get, or it doesn't work for their customer base and nobody uses it and they've got to iterate again. And they can end up spending quite a lot of money on this when there was other ways that we could have done this. And it's quite heartbreaking when people have spent tens of thousands of pounds sometimes on this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, we could have tested this more easily. I mean, not everybody spends that kind of money, but I had somebody the other week who was spending a few £1,000s and they just got something that just didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't do what they needed it to do. It was, to cut down a solution, but nobody had really explained to the founder what they were going to get, and how it wouldn't quite, so they couldn't identify ahead of time that it wouldn't meet their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that jumping in too quickly to development is one of the key things. And there's actually, like, if you're in Scotland, like TechScaler have a lot of resources on this, and actually Barclays Eagle Labs also do as well. If you're based in the rest of the country, you can get access to those, and maybe we can share some of those links.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they've got a lot of sort of free online courses that can help you do some of that initial cut down process so that you can really understand that you're building the right thing.
And I find that people come for help once they've had a bad experience. And that's usually because they have invested and it's not worked out. And then they need the help. So how do we mitigate that, right? Is two individuals that both work with supporting business owners with their tech stack, right? How do we mitigate it right from the start? What ideas can we come up with on this? What can we do to kind
Yeah.
of do it? I'm like, they just need to talk to us to start off with, right? As maybe a starting point. Have you got any ideas about how we can mitigate that so we
No, I
don't
mean,
cause them problems?
I try and talk about like the free stuff that's available to get people going as much as I can, and I'm sure you do the same. You talk about the common problems, but yes, the problem is that the people I'm really, I'm trying to work with, and they're the non-technical folks, and they don't know that these exist, or they're not using the same social media channels and that kind of thing. So it's really hard to get these messages out
Yeah.
there to the right people.
I find it's fear as well, because the amount of people that say, I'm not techie, I don't like tech, but they can't live without their phone in their hand or carrying their computer or tablet with them at all times. And they use it as a means to distraction rather than a means of using it as a tool to help make their life work a bit better and easier. And I think it's changing that mind. There's a lot of mindset around, and this is what I deal with, as you know. So changing the mind around how we implement and use technology. Do you have to do a lot of that as well when you're working with people and individuals, both startups and scale ups?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think this is where we're maybe not quite in the same
Mm-hmm.
space. I tend to get the people who are coming like really excited with an idea,
Okay.
so that they want to do. So I maybe usually get them before they've made the
I get them
mistakes.
after, you get them before.
Yeah, but I'm really aware that there's like loads of people out there that we're not reaching, that are going, that could come to either of us much earlier in the process. Because that's it. Like, I love it when people have got, fantastic ideas. I speak to people every day and I'm like, I never have thought of that, but that sounds fantastic. I'd totally use that. And you must think there's loads of people out there who've got those ideas, but they're just not doing anything with them. It's like,
Mhm.
there's people here that can help. It doesn't have to cost you a whole lot of money. There's plenty of, free and very cheap resources that can help you get going. But yeah, I just want a billboard somewhere that says there is help.
And I wanted to say, like, it doesn't need to be built itself. We can use existing tools, as you mentioned
Yes.
already. It's
Yeah.
like, it's putting those building, it's like a Lego set, right? So it's putting those Lego pieces together to build something, whatever it is that you want to build. I explain it like a felt board as well. So, like, you remember, and that's showing my age, I bet, or talking about my age. You remember in
But fuzzy
nursery,
felt.
fuzzy felts, and you could
Yeah.
put the felt board and you could
Yeah.
paint pictures with it. So it's like that. Like with Lego, if you get a bunch of stuff together, you can create whatever you want. And that's what using the tech stack and the different tools can help you to do. But people don't know about it, right? They don't know.
Yeah, and often the kinds of tools that they're using every day anyway. So lots of people have used like Typeform, for instance, or WordPress, but or Wix, Squarespace. They don't realise that there's a lot more that these existing tools that they're already familiar with can do,
Mm,
that can really help them, put their idea out there and make it real.
yeah.
So it doesn't have to be super complicated.
No, I find this as well, that they'll get told a solution by somebody else, and that person's not in their industry, not in their niche, and they're not an expert, but they will trust them and they go with that, and then it doesn't work out for them, as well. So that's some problems I see,
Yeah.
as well, around people that have had that. So we've both come at different. We've got people coming to us from different places, in that way, and how they're getting the advice from us. So, what's your advice for finding the right technical partner or agency to bring a product to life?
I think you really want to work with people who you believe understand you, who are giving you advice that you can understand and work with, and that aren't afraid to answer your questions. Like, I would encourage you, like, really ask lots of questions, get curious, don't let them bamboozle you with loads of technical jargon. They might not be doing it deliberately, because tech people just like to speak in tech and acronyms.
Mm. As a creator, I used to spend hours re-recording voiceovers to get the perfect tone. But finding reliable voice talent, booking studio time, and editing takes forever, and it can break the bank. That's why I recommend 11 Labs. It generates ultra-realistic AI voices and even clones your own, all in seconds. With natural-sounding speech, multilingual support, and seamless text-to-speech conversion, 11 Labs powers podcasts, audiobooks, training modules, and more. No mic required. Ready to level up your audio? Try it free today at allmylink.me/TC11labs and bring your scripts to life with 11 Labs.
If you should be able to ask them to explain that in more detail. What does that mean for me? Ask questions like that. And if they are giving you explanations that you can understand, then that suggests that they'll be somebody you can work with.
So, questions you can ask. I get people to use the kind of 5 Ws, if you know that: the what, when, where, why, how, right?
Yes, yeah, that's a good framework. Yes.
So ask the question like 6 or 7 times, the same question 6 or 7 times. So if it is even just a simple question of What is the right tool for me? Answer that question. What is the right tool for me? From that again, and ask that same question multiple times. That then may branch off into other questions that will help you kind of define that a little bit more.
Yeah. Yes, you really need to be understanding what they're telling you and being able to ask the questions until you do. And if you're not clicking with them and not understanding the explanations, it's not a good fit. You're not going to get what you want. So I really like that, ask what and then ask why is that, what's the best tool for me? Why is that the best tool for me? Where can I find more information on it? That kind of thing. Do a little bit of the research yourself as well. Take what they're telling you and then go look around, look up the tools, get them to send you links. So yeah, see if it doesn't make sense to you. It should. There's no reason tech has to be incomprehensible to anybody. So yeah, make sure that you understand it, it makes sense. And if the companies you're working with can do that for you, then that's a really good sign that you'll get a successful partnership out of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that they can actually talk to the people that create these tools as well.
Yeah.
So, for example, like WordPress, the builders within WordPress, like Elementor, for example, I've had multiple conversations with them because I use their tool and I help other people with their tools. So they want to help you create the best and use the best out of their products. And I've learned a lot from them that I can then recommend to other people. So get a CTO or even at a fractional basis and have the conversations with the tools that they're providing as well, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of them have like chat on their website. It might start out automated, but then it'll go to real people as well. Or another good one is many of these tools have like community forums as well.
Yeah.
So you might get other people like, oh, how do I do this with Typeform? How do I do this with WordPress? And people will respond from the community saying, oh, I did it this way. So you get other people like you and you can learn from them. But also the tools themselves, the people involved will monitor the forums and reply as well to make sure there's no incorrect information going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's, the people want you to use the tool in the end.
That's right. And it goes back to that kind of knowledge sharing aspect of technology as well, which I love. And I think we need to step into that and step into that space as a founder. So even if you're a startup, you step into that role of being the person that can ask these effective questions or want to ask these questions within that space without the fear of getting a response that they don't understand.
Yes, yeah. That's a really good way of putting it. And I think, yeah, really lean into curiosity. I think it's a really big skill in the startup space generally, but especially for this kind of thing. There aren't any silly questions on here. Yes, you might be asking very basic questions, but there's no shame in that. And people who are trying to shame you for that, they're the people to ignore. They're not the people you want to be working with. A lot of the tech community is really friendly and supportive. And even if it's not them creating the tool, but they love the tool, they want to help you use it. So yeah, it's surprisingly, friendly space, many of these areas. And I think it's worth leaning into that because then you can do a lot more yourself. You can get a lot further on your own, or maybe it's with your founding team if you've got a few of you doing it together. You can get a lot further without having to bring in outside help, so you can get there more cheaply.
I think that's explained really well, Ceri, as well. So let's talk a little bit about inclusive innovation as well. So you talk quite a bit about that. And what does that really look like when we're building tech products? How do we build in that inclusive aspect of it? Not just accessibility, but inclusion.
Yes. So a lot of it is about having like a slightly wider view then and making sure that you've got it's not just you in your head solving the problem and that you've got a few people giving you different ideas. So this is where as a startup team, like some people call it like your board of advisors, but it's really just a collection of friends or contacts in the industry who can help you out. So you might have people who maybe represent your customers really well. You might have people who represent like a few different types of customers or different backgrounds of your customers. You can have people who can help you on the tech side and on the industry side and all that kind of thing. So getting those different views in and not just talking to them about their own area of expertise, but just sharing a little bit more about your journey with them, then you can start getting that wider view on what you're trying to do. can allow you to identify challenges or problematic aspects or risky aspects up front and deal with them. I think also when you're working with your development teams, ask questions about, if you're using a third-party provider, what's the makeup of their team like? Are the women involved? Are the people from different backgrounds? Because then they can feed into the tech side and the challenges as well on that.
I think this is where diversity is so important in the technical space. And we've both been in the technical space for a long time now. And we're both based in Scotland, different parts of Scotland. And I have seen the growth of diversity within Scotland itself. But there is a huge need for STEM and getting young people interested in all aspects of STEM, and it not just being around the mathematical side of it or the full technical side of it. There's the creativity side of it as well, right? And the artistic, the design, the fun, the thinking bigger and holistically about it as well. So have you thought about that around that kind of diversity of thought, diversity of everything? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is why I want to bring in more founders from more diverse backgrounds, and a lot of the work that I'm doing with tech scalers and with some of my other friends and colleagues is around this, like how can we get more people into here who maybe haven't had that exposure. But I do think it's really important that we show the whole aspects of tech, and as you say, in STEM, like it's really important that we've got creative folks. Everything is tech nowadays. So we need a whole mix of skills in there. It's far from just the maths. And I think as AI comes more into the mix, particularly there are AI tools that can write your code for you. So it becomes much more important to the communication skills, the understanding, the being able to break a problem down into different steps, being able to analyze the solutions and identify risks. So these skills become a lot more prevalent, I think, as we go into the future.
I am 100% with you, because it's our unique creativity and human aspects that are going to help build and develop better solutions in the future, because we're in this moving towards no code builds, aren't we? So we're moving into a place where the developer role might be taking a step back, as the tools might be able to do that for us. So where is that bridge between the creativity, the development, and the technical? How does that look like for you?
So I think that's what our techies of the future are going to be doing, is they're going to be using these tools, checking what they're doing. But a large part of it is talking to and understanding the customers, the clients, the founders, and understanding what needs to be built, and then learning to think creatively about the solutions in order to get the tools to do what you want. And I think like right now the tools they are far from 100% solutions there, so there's still a lot of patching it up and that kind of thing afterwards, or filling in the bits that the AI can't do, but they will get better over time. But I still think that, that even the image creation is just based off what's already there. They can't have the new original thoughts. And that's what we need, founders for. That's what we need people's ideas for. That's what we need, artists and graphic designers for, because they're having the new original ideas. And it's the same in the code space. It's that new original idea of how to solve this problem. So where you get into the really cutting edge type solutions that nobody's done this before, that's where the tech can get really challenging. And I think that's where you'll get far more interesting problems, and you'll get like the engineers concentrating around those, and then the people working on the everyday solutions will be more about like speaking to the customers and about understanding and translating what's wanted into something that the AI can work with and deliver much more quickly than a person could.
I think it's the communication of that as well. So how do we communicate with the tools? So we're speaking to the tools now like we would speak to a human, but they're not human. So it's about learning how to effectively communicate to the language learning models. I was talking about AI there, and how these are going to develop in the future, because it might be that we don't speak to them or we don't type to them. We don't know what that's going to look like in the future. But we need to enhance our essential skills of communication, collaboration, teamwork, to be able to make sure that we can effectively be more human. How do we train to be more human? Be a human, right?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
We need to take the tech away for that and do human things to talk to the tech more, right?
This is actually this is some of the training that I do for more established teams is around these type of skills
Uh-huh.
that I think we just need to develop as engineers and as technical people. Like we're trained to write the code, we're trained to do the heads down, headphones on, but actually so much of the job, even before AI is really coming in, is about talking to people. It's about talking to our peers or the developers. It's about talking to stakeholders. It's about talking to customers. And we don't train people on this. As I actually think, large parts of tech training should be without the tech, it's on the people skills. Things like, how to give and receive feedback to your peers, how to, present a technical problem in a non-technical manner, that kind of thing. They're all skills that are going to become much, much more important. I mean, they're still important now, as we both know, but they're going to become much, much more important in the future.
And that's what I practice and preach. So it's about again, it's changing the mindsets of the decision makers to see that that's the importance of the learning and development space will change to being more essential skill driven rather than technical skills because the tools will do the technical to
Yes.
help us be more human. I like that. I want to be more human.
Yes.
However, I also would like to be a robot at some point, but who knows? That might happen. As mechanical hearts and arms, and I might just be a full mechanical internal system as I get
Cyborg at
later.
that point.
Cyborg,
Yeah,
have cyborg Sooz. That'll be it. Even right, I know. Geez, that's like Terminator, isn't it?
yeah.
Like, so I've got a question around motivation, right? So what keeps you motivated when it comes to tech? Because there's frustration when it comes to the tools not working. So what keeps you motivated?
I think it's that joy and delight when it does work, when you get a release out there, when it goes out and it's suddenly being used by hundreds of customers, or just when you solve a problem. I mean, I think a lot of engineers and techie people, we're problem solvers.
We love a problem.
So, I mean, like I do all the puzzle games on my phone, like
Mm-hmm.
word games and similar, because I just get a buzz from getting
Yeah.
things right. So finding the answer is and finding a solution, working through a tricky problem, getting something that the customer or the founder is delighted with. That just gives me a real buzz and just keeps me going. And yeah, there is frustrating bits, but I think particularly the advantage of working with multiple people at once or multiple clients at once is that there's always something that is going really well and that you can focus on and get the wins out of to take that energy into the
Oh,
stuff that's challenging.
yeah, I love that. That's exactly the same for me. Problem solving. The motivation is finding that solution and the joy and
Yes.
the seeing that wow moment that they have. Like I love to generate wow moments where they go, "Oh, wow!" And I'm like, "Yeah, the tool did that because we found the solution to it." Because there's always a way. There's always a way. We just have to connect the puzzle pieces together in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing people get like their first payments through for their
Yeah.
so I work with founders usually over quite a journey, and just hearing them say, oh, I did this, I did that.
Huh.
Yeah, we've got somebody paying for it. I was like, yes, it's really just warms the heart. It was like, yes, we've got something that somebody cares about.
Yeah, that's great. Last question before we finish up. How do you help people get into this space? What would be some recommendations for maybe people that are wanting to move into more of a technical role? What kind of career advice would you give to people?
Ooh, that's a really good one. So,
Sorry, I put you on the spot there, Katie.
so I think that if you're looking to get into the technical roles, it doesn't necessarily mean, as we've talked about just before, it doesn't necessarily mean having to code yourself. If you want to learn how to code, there are lots of free online resources that you can take a look at. Just type in how to learn to code, and there should be plenty of free stuff out there that you can have a play with and see, is this what does this work for me? Am I interested in this? But do look at the roles sort of around the code as well. So get your look at things like product management. So this is a lot of product management, where you're talking to customers and then translating what they want into features in the product. So that might be skills that you've already got from your existing jobs or existing work. It can be like support roles as well, like being technical support, and they can be a good way to start in. And you might be helping with simple questions and following worksheets and similar, or tick sheets. But then you actually get more and more experienced in there, and you can be solving the deeper technical challenges in there. If you're looking for if you're already in a job and you would like to transition to doing a more technical role, and your employer is supporting that, then look out for modern apprenticeships. Often doesn't matter. We tend to think that these are for school people, school leavers and similar, but actually there's not necessarily any age limit on them. So look around for those kinds of things as well. And yeah, I think just get curious, look at what's out there, look at what's interesting, stay up to date with the news, join some of the local meetup groups as well. They're really happy to have newbies in them, almost all
Like the
of them.
tech meetups don't need to be just for people in tech. It is for people that are interested in technology, and you can go and have great conversations with people
Yeah,
because they're working on complex solutions and coming up with,
yeah.
or complex problems, coming up with solutions for
Solutions.
complex
Yeah.
problems. Yeah.
Yeah, and often the talks are really accessible. So two, I'd recommend a Tech Meetup Edinburgh and Tech Meetup Glasgow, but there's usually all over Scotland that there's a similar meetups. Yeah, they tend to be really accessible, easy to understand, easy to have questions, and you'll find you'll absorb knowledge over time. You'll find people doing different roles that you didn't even know existed.
Exactly. And new roles are being created all the time. I mean, I do think an easy start is, even if you're not technical in any way, but you want to be technical, is go and look for a tester role.
Oh, that's a
So,
good shout. Yes.
like, I worked in legal corporate after Apple, and there was a full team of testers on my floor. And there was, like, if you imagine rows of desks on either side, right? Standard office stuff before pre-COVID, right? And there was like 8 rows, and they all were given just a sheet, the tool, and they had to follow the instructions step by step. If you imagine like a manual, to go through it to see if it's working or if it's not. And for people with no abilities or have not worked with technology in any sort of way, they don't need to have those technical skills, but they learn the processes. And a lot of technology is processes, right? It's all processes and systems, and how one step moves on to next, right? I like to think of it like you go to the butcher's, you grab a ticket for, you're in line. It works on that kind of step by step ticket basis, right? You can't move there next until the next one goes. So you learn that in
Yeah.
those kind of testing environments.
Yes, a tester. Like, I should have said that straight off, because that's how my husband started out. Yep. So he's now a senior test engineer, test lead, but he started out with no particular technical experience other than just using a computer, and gradually built up those skills. And it turns out he's got a real talent for breaking things. Which, if you're one of those people who, whenever you touch tech, it breaks for you, tester's a really good role.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
actually, another good role that's kind of emerging, that is maybe a good way to get into tech, is the prompt engineering.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if you can experiment with how to get AIs and language models to do the things you want them to do,
yeah.
then that is an increasingly emergent role that it might be
Hmm.
worth looking at. And again, I think that might turn out to be quite a good entry way in.
That's a great prompt, actually, Kerry, because we've got our prompt engineering course is the one that we get most asks for, because it's how do you effectively communicate to that LLM. And it doesn't matter which one, because it is if you learn that process of how to, again, it's communication, but the structure of that communication and how to get the most out of it. So again, it's always about a little bit of knowledge goes a long way. It saves the time, it saves the
Yes.
energy. Brilliant. Okay, what 3 tips can you give to people for building an app solution, Kerry? What's the last thing that you can share with us all?
I think really wrapping up what I've already talked about. So go small. Start with the smallest thing you can find that solves the problem, or that you think solves the problem. Cheap and quick is your friend in the early stages. Don't overthink it. Get something out there, but make sure that you are still delivering something that's valuable, so that it actually does solve the problem. But if you're building small, you can easily test that and change it.
Go back to that user, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Get it in front of real users. Do they use it? Do they want it? Does it solve their problem? And then, if you've only built a small thing and it doesn't work, it's quite easy to just throw that away and start again, or change it up. and find the next bit. And then I think finally they're like, use what's out there, use existing tools and processes and combine them together, rather than building from scratch. Save the building from scratch for later when you're making the money or when you've got the grant funding or the investment funding. When you're starting out, use what's there as much as you possibly can.
And I would add, get somebody to talk you through it. So get that person on board like yourself, Ceri, to come and just brainstorm to start off with, to get those ideas out of your mind, if it's pen on paper, but talk it with an expert, somebody with that technical know-how like yourself.
Yeah, and you may be able to access those services for free through the mentoring schemes that are out there. So it doesn't even necessarily have to cost you money at that stage.
Yeah. And luckily, Ceri is offering a free tech strategy session for anybody that's listening to or watching this episode. So you can find that at thistle-labs.com/free-tech-strategy-session. It's in the show notes, and you'll be able to access it from there. Ceri will have a chat with you. Tell us a little bit more about what that strategy session looks like.
So yeah, it's really 30 minutes for you to just chat about your problem, and then we can do that initial, hey, is this feasible? You know, what tools might we use to solve it? Is it too big? How can we cut it down? We can chat through all of those things and, you know, just give you a bit of peace of mind and reassurance that this is possible and here's your next steps to go. And I also always point people to like all the other resources that are out there as well. So part of it is like finding out like where you're based and what you're trying to do, so that we can point you to other free or cheap resources that might be able to support you at the stage you're at.
Amazing, Ceri. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure for us to connect and speak to each other. And by the time that this episode goes out, Ceri will have already have spoken at the Glasgow Tech Week event, which I'm so privileged to have you come and speak with other speakers as well. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
And everyone, please go and check out thistlelabs.com, book in a strategy session with Ceri, and yeah, build your app solution.
Yep, I want to see them all being built. I want to get all those ideas out into the world, so we can solve all the problems.
Solve all the problems. Let's do it. Let's knowledge share and solve problems. Brilliant, Ceri. Right, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, and you too. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
That's it for this episode of Digital Dominators. If your brain's buzzing and you're ready to keep that digital energy going, come join us at technologycoaching.online. It's the community for small business owners who want to get visible, take action, and grow with the right support around them. Head to technologycoaching.online. I'd love to see you there. And until next time, keep showing up, tackling your tech, and dominating your digital world. Hey, I've got a little gift for you, especially if you've been tuning into the Digital Dominators podcast or watching any of the content I'm putting out on YouTube. If you subscribe to both the podcast and the YouTube channel and send me a quick screenshot in a DM, I'll give you free access to my social media prompt calendar. This is the full toolkit I normally charge for, and it's packed with post ideas, Canva templates, and tips to help you actually show up online without faffing around and wondering what to post. You don't need to fill in a form or jump through any hoops. Just subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, screenshot both, and then DM me at Technology Coaching. Once I see your message, I'll send you a coupon code that you can grab the whole thing for free. It's a genuine thank you for supporting what I'm building, and if it helps you get visible online, then I'm all for it. Go subscribe, send screenshots at Technology Coaching.